Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Ange, welcome to the podcast. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm slowly getting there. I know as we sort of spoke before we came on, I'm just wrestling back from injury at the minute, but I've been keeping an eye on you. You've been so consistent in your training and kicking ass and taking names. The first time we kind of got together was probably like a year ago. People forget that also we have colossal fuck-ups with the podcast as well. We actually spent some great time together, did a whole workout and everything like that, recorded a podcast, and I just had a colossal meltdown of technology.
Someone had a technical fault, eh?
Oh,
it's all good. It's all good. No worries.
Like such a colossal bellend when stuff like that.
No, you're fine. Don't worry. It's all good. It's always nice to chat to you, Pete.
It is, but also I think to myself, like everything you've done since then, because since we had our time together then, you've gone on, you've done the BFC, you've passed all of your stuff with your career. Do you know what I mean? You've come on such leaps and bounds from when we spent time together before.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, firstly, thank you for having me on again. There has been a massive not change, but development, I suppose, in that time. Obviously, competing in the BFC. Braces down, Ange.
Fucking bless you. When you stood at the bottom of the tower, I was like, and I'm leaning sideways, and I'm pointing to the guys in the tent, and I'm like, you're not fucking checking people. And they're like, yeah, we are. She's got the right gloves on. Fucking braces are hanging around her fucking knees. Bless her. I was like, it didn't hold you back.
To be fair, it didn't hold me back. No, it was it was one of those moments where I got to getting my checks done, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, do you want to take your t-shirt off?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea." So I took my t-shirt.
Okay. No, all right now, mate. Yeah, all right. Maybe later when I've had a drink or two. Steady.
Yeah, I mean, can't blame him. He's only human.
He's only human. I'm a good time girl. I'm all right, but one thing at a time, son.
Steady now, easy. But yeah, he said he was like, do you want to take your t-shirt off, because then it will like keep you all cool and everything like that. So then I was like, oh yeah, sure. So then just took off my t-shirt, but then put my tunic back on without putting my braces up. I just didn't concentrate. I was just so focused on trying to do the challenge, and then like I was up against Beth, who did phenomenal. She had a bit of an issue with the line, but like I was so nervous, especially to compete against her, because I was aware that she'd been working in the training facility, so she'd had access to all this stuff. And I was like, what? Like, this is mad. And it was such a good day. I loved it. I can't wait for Manchester. Like,
you did
so
great with it. So great with that.
Oh, I did like
your
dummy drag.
Aspect, has been a massive part of your kind of whole personal development and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you about that kind of imposter syndrome when you then step up onto that stage and you think about, oh God, what am I like against all these other people? And I'm fine when I'm in the gym, but when I get put on a stage like this, how will I really perform? Because so many people have that, especially women, when they think about coming into the job itself. The sort of person that they think firefighters are versus if they're good enough or if they're anything enough. How's that kind of played a role for you? Because we obviously saw that manifest a little bit in the BFC, despite the fact you went on to absolutely fucking crush it, and just your adulation and your excitement. Yours are some of the best photos that came out of it, just because that's such euphoria when you really fucking crushed it, and you were like a poster child for it, really. But now in the fire service as well, because you are, and you kind of advocate for it on all of your socials and stuff like that. You're humble enough to get over yourself to be able to talk to people about your journey in the fire service. But that's got to be pretty petrifying shit sometimes.
It is. Like, I think anything where you put yourself out there is scary for anyone. And I think the biggest misconception with myself is a lot of people view me as this bold, eccentric, chatty individual that comes across as if I've got bags and bags of confidence. But the reality is that I'm not actually that confident. I just thrive through helping people. And like the kick you get from that makes you want to put yourself out there in order to help others that want to achieve the same goals or dreams or focuses that you've had, but it always makes me think. I always relate it back to myself when I wanted to join the fire service, and there wasn't this social page, there wasn't any individual that I could look on to try and gain information. People are always asking me, like, how do I get into the fire service? And sometimes I do sit there and think, like, just do your research. But then I remember when I was in that position, and it's like, where do you actually begin? Because it's all well and good going onto a search engine, but and reading about it, but reading about it doesn't give you the real insight. And also, like, it's, you can reach out and contact a station, but some people, potentially more so women, will find that quite intimidating.
Absolutely.
So it's just trying to be able to put aside ego, because I definitely don't have a large ego or anything like that, and don't worry about what people think, and just focus on the good that comes from it. And that's why, yeah, I mean, I never set out really to do it. It all stemmed from my friend asking me to do it. And I was so nervous to. And they were like, please go public with your account and just share a bit more of what you do. I was like, really? I was like, do you think people want to see that? And they're like, I had no idea you did like the animal rescue
100%.
stuff.
Yeah. This is it. And it's
yeah,
kind of the whole origin of the podcast as well, because so many people have just become a little bit too cool for school, and they've closed the doors of fire stations in the world, in the UK Fire and Rescue Service, and even the emergency services. We've seen the emergence of some things, like where paramedics are able to share a bit more of what they do, and even some police officers with some shows on TV and all that sort of stuff. But through fear, we've closed a lot of that down, and I feel like people don't get insights into some of the incredible stuff that people are able to experience, but also just the journey themselves. I mean, you said something really poignant about confidence there, which I wanted to ask you about. Where did this lack of confidence originate from? Because, like you say, it does seem a complete opposite to the way that you're able to push yourself into things now. When did confidence, good or bad, first start emerging for you?
I think that's a good question.
Because you've got sisters, you've got a different.
I do have sisters. Yes, yes. Well done.
Today's episode was brought to you by our good friends at Wood Watches. We put so much thought into the people that we partner with on the podcast, and Wood Watches has been with us since the beginning. Now, they have 6 different collections now. In October, they brought out their new Fearless collection. Now, I've been speaking to some people in the past who have got that Wood watch for a specific occasion, for something really smart, really classy. But the best thing about the Fearless collection is that it's built to be worn in active surroundings. Now, again, if you're unfamiliar with it, the massive core of all these Wood watches is the upcycling of firefighting materials. And the Fearless collection has got a 100-year-old British Bash firefighter helmet melted down and placed inside the crown of the watch. That's exactly the same as they have with all of their collections. But this one also features repurposed black fire hose. I myself went for the Valiant watch. I've had this for a couple of years now. Really nice. I've got it in the red strap. There's a whole range of payment options. Go over and take a look at them. Whether you're thinking of a retirement gift, you got something special to celebrate, or you have just started your emergency services career, go over and check them out. WilliamWoodWatches.com. The best way to support the podcast is to support our sponsors. So please take a click in the notes below. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so I'm from a very strong women based family. I'm the baby of 4 sisters, 4 girls.
There's some big
girls.
Shadows to cast over.
They are some big. Yeah, they are definitely. No, they're awesome. I'm very fortunate to have 3 very strong women, and my mother. She is incredibly strong-minded too. And I just think so. When I was younger, I struggled with confidence in that. I think I've always known that I'm a good person and a good heart and everything like that. It's more so confidence with regards to image and how you look and everything like that. And I think anyone that's got siblings or anything would always know how it feels, if, especially if you're of the same gender, that it's like, oh, your sister's so hot. And then it makes you think, and then a little bit. It's like a subconscious comparison. But
absolutely.
It's it also as well stems from I really struggle with people not liking me, or and that's not me saying for 1 minute that everyone has to like me, because that's life, not everyone's going to. But I truly believe that unless you've done something to upset someone, or you've done something nasty, then I think everyone's got an equal chance. So there's no reason why people should dislike you.
100%.
So I always struggle with that. The confidence thing is just being a change in mindset just as I've developed, like over the years. I'm going to be 30 next year, and it's just been just confidence and mindset in being positive, being determined. So it obviously, as I know you're aware, it took me quite a long time to get into the fire service. My confidence massively lacks in theory. I'm very not theory focused at all. So I'd struggled with that. But it's just taking a grip of your strengths and using them in order to help other people. I think that's more so how it is, rather than a confidence thing. I don't know if that's a clear answer, but
no, it is a clear answer. But I wanted to ask you there, like, about those setbacks, because you say about having to apply a number of times and your personal doubts in your academic ability. Even again, when most people won't really have a full understanding of what's required to get into the fire and rescue service. So I always say some people say no when they don't even know what they're saying no to. They get scared of something when they don't really understand the size of the challenge or even what's involved. And like you've said, it's difficult to actually go and find that information sometimes. How did you find going for the job and failing, a few times and not getting in, and people knowing that you weren't getting in? What sort of age would you have been, and what else was going on at that time?
Oh God, so like honestly, it massively ties into mindset as well as ability. I think the two go hand in hand, mindset 100%, and
100%.
knowing your ability. It all stems all the way back to when I was a child. So when I was really small, I actually always wanted to be a police officer. And then as I got
Doesn't
older,
make you a bad person, though. Doesn't make you a bad person.
No, not at all.
We all had silly dreams when we were a kid. It's okay.
No, I think the police is a phenomenal service.
I cannot believe what they do to shit the bed. You know what I mean?
They do so much. Yeah, it's a very tough job.
Yeah, anywhere near.
It's a tough job, but it's also not really the angle that I saw myself going in as I got older. And it was about 16, 17, and I was doing public services at college at the time, and I was researching into different areas. I looked at the RAF, I looked at the Navy, I also looked at the Army, but I didn't really want to be away from home. Okay. So I was then thinking, well, what about a firefighter? And then I looked into it and I was like, okay, yeah, this is ticking a lot of the boxes. It's got the adrenaline, it's got the helping people, it's got the physical aspect, no 2 days being the same. And then it also made me think about that time when you're in school and the fire truck's coming in and you're like, oh God, we're seeing the firefighters today. But I remember those days so clearly, and never did I see a woman ever. And that's why when I did get into the job, doing my first ever school talk, I actually found it quite emotional. I got back on the truck and I was a bit teary. I was like, oh, God, I'm like, to those little girls, when they grow up, they'll remember us and they'll remember seeing me. And that's a massive impact. Yeah, massively. And then it was around 16, 17 that I decided I wanted to be a firefighter. I remember going into my kitchen and I told my mum, I was like, Mum, I'm going to be a firefighter. And she was like, you're going to be a what? And then she was like, yeah. I was like, I'm going to be a firefighter. She's like, right. Okay. And then it wasn't until I was about 23 that I had the confidence to actually go for it. And I put in my first application.
That's a big window of time. What happened during then? What did you go and do? How did you convince yourself that you weren't good enough, or that the opportunity wasn't there?
Yeah, just wasn't good enough. Lack of confidence, lack of knowledge in the job. Just didn't feel, I don't know, I just didn't feel ready for it.
Hey folks, just wanted to jump in with a quick piece around firefighter health and wellbeing. Whether you are trying to join the fire service and pass them tricky fitness tests, if you are currently serving, or if you are coming up to that next chapter of your life, retiring from the emergency services, we get so many different questions around it. So in partnership with Fitness for the Frontline, we have come up with a series of guidance and programs specifically designed to reflect the physical elements of the role of a firefighter. So whether it's carrying an LPP across an overgrown field, lifting a ladder above your head under running it, or wrestling with cutting gear for 30 plus minutes at some kind of complicated RTC, our bodies are required to lift, push, and carry objects in very specific circumstances. That is effectively what Fitness on the Frontline focuses on, as well as the longer term aspects of overall health and wellness for our firefighters. Now, we are definitely not about to be smashing out world records or getting that beach body ready in 6 weeks rubbish. The systems and programs that we put in place are adjusted for people's current fitness levels, and they're not a prescriptive weight or a one-size-fits-all BS. it is very likely for myself personally that I'm still going to be a firefighter when I'm 60 plus. So longevity in the role is really important to me. And I know it is for so many people out there. It all starts with no obligation, 7 days worth of the programming, absolutely free. So whether you're joining, serving, or looking at the next chapter in your life, Fitness for the Frontline is designed by firefighters for firefighters. Now back to the show.
And I was in a total different mindset then as well. Like, I partied loads. I had debt as well from partying. Like, I didn't have a grip on life, I think is the best way to summarize it. I was doing sales jobs. I worked uptown in London. I was having a great time. I was living life, but it wasn't the right mindset for joining the fire service, which is something that I look back on now. And also the struggles with the theory stuff. So in total, from 23 it was either 22 or 23 up until the age of 27. So like over across, I think that's about 5 years. Yeah. I applied 6 times. So 3 times to one brigade, once to a different one, and then 1 time prior to the one that I'm in now. So it has just been learning every time. But then even after each application, the processes would change. So I remember I went to the first 3 times were for Berkshire, and I remember going up to their head office and doing it all multiple choice for 5 hours with a pencil, and then next time it's, oh, we're all moving online. It's like, what? Like, this is different. But then every time I always failed in a different area on the theory. So it felt like an impossible
task. Through some of those first sifts is just such a fucking lottery. Do you know what I mean? And I've had it the same with some promotion process. It's like you think you go back and you've learned a few lessons and you've done a few adaptations and you do what's best, and you put the fucking numbers in the safe in the different order, and they just go, no. Or like you think the answer is 3 and the answer's fucking brown or something, and you're like, I'm completely fucking left field. You know, I did not even. You feel further away sometimes, and you feel like you're just not making any progress. I've had so much feedback that didn't correlate with other feedback you'd have from other people, and it just really can feel quite demoralizing.
It is, but I used it as fuel, and I typically go through life of having give yourself a day to dwell on it, and then you pick yourself up, and then you go again, basically. And I remember on one of the applications, I think this was my 4th one, and they said no again. And I just remember just saying to my then boyfriend at the time, I was just like, why doesn't anyone want me? Why doesn't a brigade want me? Like, I don't understand. And I will openly admit, I'm not the best academically. I had the necessary to get in, but I'm still not very theory. My strengths aren't there in the theory stuff. So I always knew that if they did the physicals first, without being arrogant, I'd be all right. Like, I was like, physical is my strength. Like, I love running around. I love doing all of that stuff. Give me a maths equation and I'll struggle. But when it came to the final time, I spoke to my mum and I said, oh, they're opening recruitment again. And she went, are you going to go for it again? And I was like, this is going to be the last time. And honest to God, it was. But everything was so different. Like, I was in a very happy relationship at the time. I had bought my home. I was out of my debt. Things had slowed down. Like, I reached it out to different avenues as well. I plucked up the courage to go to a fire station. I got in touch with a mutual friend who is now a friend now of my own, who is also a firefighter. He was so helpful. And everything just felt different. And I remember having a phone call with my sister, and she said, I think you've got it this time. I think you're in. But you know how long the process is. Yeah. And then you're just like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And then fast forwards to having done the physicals, the medical, everything. And then we obviously went into the pandemic. And I remember being at my local park, and I think you would agree with this, and I think any firefighter would, you will never, ever forget that moment of being told yes, especially if you've been up against it so much with getting told no.
I cried.
That,
I
yeah,
fucking,
I
I sat
cried.
down, slumped down against the wall in my kitchen. Shithole of a fucking kitchen I was living in at the time, as renting a room off somebody else. And my dog just came up and sat with me, and I was just like, shit, I've
Mm,
actually done it.
it's crazy, isn't it? I was at my local park and I'd been training, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to check my phone. And then I looked, and then I had the email. And initially, when I was reading the email, it was like, sure, you can appreciate, loads of people apply. And I was reading it thinking, oh no, it's a no. And then it said, but we want to invite you onto whole time recruitment course. And I just remember, God, I remember other people on their daily walks looking over at me, and I just screamed and then just like fell to the floor. But like in that, it probably looking at it, it was rather dramatic, but
Yeah.
just like this outpour of like, I just cried, and I was just, and then the worst thing, I tried calling my mum, no answer. I tried calling my dad, no answer. Sister, no answer. My mate that helped me, it's James, I'm in. And he's like, no way. And I was like, yes, yes. And it was the best feeling in the world. And it's one of those feelings as well that no one can like
No.
top it or take it away from you at all, because it is the most exhilarating feeling. I know it's one of my like proudest,
Yeah.
best moments of my life. So yeah.
Those moments, especially when you reflect on them, and those are the gratitude moments. So I do daily gratitude and stuff like that. And I think to
Mm,
myself, as much, so like, for example, today, yeah, okay, I'm in a fucking adjustable splint, gammy leg. But I also still think, Jesus gosh, the position that I'm in, the job that I do, the opportunities that I get, the people that I'm able to speak to, the things that I've built, the family that I have, the fact that there is a logical route back to recovery. There's so much to be grateful for. And the position that I do in the job that I do, I think, if you could see yourself now from 3 years ago, from 5 years ago, you'd be like, I'd fucking give anything for that. I'd give anything.
mm.
And now sometimes we still have those moments where we go, I'm a bit shit, or everything's a bit shit, or whatever. And you're just like, dude, get some perspective.
Yeah, massively.
That's tough. How do you get
Massively.
perspective on a daily basis? Because you still have, all of your personal challenges. You spoke about coming out of debt, all of that
Mm,
time ago. So you've come from places of potential self-doubt, lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, financial challenges, relationship challenges. How do you keep that optimism and perspective? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend you do it every fucking day, because I know you don't, because I know we speak on a regular basis and
mm.
I have my challenges, but you're definitely a glass half full.
Glass half full, glass half empty. It depends how you look at that one, eh? I had a chat with someone about that the other day, and it's definitely a better way to look at it is glass half full is the
The
pessimist
optimist. No, it's
way. Oh,
glass
the
half full is the
optimist.
optimist. No, I wouldn't have called you a pessimist. Shit, no, no, no. No, you're a glass half
No,
full.
I was trying to work out what one it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone has those periods, don't they, of feeling like a bit lost, I suppose,
lost
is
is a
is a
great
better
word.
way of
Great
is
word.
a way of saying it. Is that it's like I've always been a person of like, what's next? Like,
Mm.
done this, got to do the next thing. And I think for me, the top things I prioritize is my training, my exercise, everything like that. Mentally, that pushes me and that makes me feel so much better in any period of like doubt or loneliness, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a mindset of being just positive and how fortunate I am to be in this position. Like it's one of those things where, I'll use my own example of it. Is obviously I I separated from my boyfriend last year, and we own a house together. And I've gone from having a house with a lovely guy with our dog to now I rent a room. And I'm very fortunate in the house I'm in. I have a wicked housemate. She's great. She helps me with my dog. Like, me and Ziggy are very happy here. But it's difficult sometimes when you then look at your friends who have the house with the partner. They're getting married. They've got a baby coming. They've had a baby, and you kind of feel a bit like you've taken steps forward, but in the process gone backwards at the same time, because you're having to like reset.
Hmm.
And some days that gets me a bit, and I'm just like, God, I'm on my own. Like I want to share this with
Yeah.
someone. I want to do this. I want to do that. But then at the same time, like you said about having perspective on things, I think, well, I'm so fortunate to have the room in the house I'm in. I'm so fortunate to have my, I know it sounds silly, but from my Instagram, my dog is like my best friend.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
it's just putting everything into perspective, which ties into mindset, is that if you change the narrative to being more positive language, you will feel more positive and more confident in yourself. But if you dwell, and it's okay to dwell occasionally,
Hmm.
and don't beat yourself up though too much. Just, but my key things would definitely be exercise and mindset to overcome those areas of doubt. And just always remember, it's such a cliche, cheesy thing to say, but it is one that I live by, is that it is very much you versus you. You
Yeah.
can look at other people in the job and be like, oh, I want to be like them. If you want to be like them, then that's up to you to apply yourself.
Mm.
So yeah, that
I agree with
I
you. I've got it
think that's how
tattooed
I
in the middle of my
summarize it, if
back,
that
is
makes
that
sense. Yeah.
you versus you aspect of it. And also, we can be forgiven for seeing other people's quote unquote progress and thinking that their progress means that we are not making progress. Do you know what I mean? Their more equals our less. And that's not necessarily the case at all. And even though you feel like you've stepped back in different parts of your life, if you're moving down in a relationship or you're in a job that you don't enjoy, we can suffer from this investment bias where we think, oh, but I've put 5 years into this relationship, or I've put 10 years into
Mm,
that thing. But if circumstances, come to fruition where the behaviors aren't right or the values aren't right or people aren't being treated the way that they should be treated, you can be making progress, you can be climbing the ladder, but you might be climbing the wrong fucking ladder. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? But some people feel like they've put so much time into that career or that thing that choosing to change gears or choosing to start again feels like a failure, and feels like, by comparison, by somebody else's metric, they
mm.
must be failing. But that's not necessarily the case. Very, very rarely
No,
is that
oh
the
my
case.
God, not at all. And speaking of quotes, like the best quote that I live by, and it's quite a childish one, but it's Dr. Seuss's, you have a brain in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose.
Love
And I
that.
think I love that quote so much. And I do say it to people. And the biggest thing that I could, especially if there's anyone listening to this that is unhappy in a relationship or unhappy in your job or unhappy in your income, the fear of leaving a relationship or leaving a job is far greater than the actual process.
Yeah.
Like the fear is just, you set this expectation of how bad and how horrible and how hurt and hard it's going to be, but then once you actually do it, I can guarantee that you'd be like, oh,
It's that
it's not actually that
anticipation of
bad.
it.
Exactly, it's that build up and the fear. And life is so short, and I just want my life to be epic whilst I'm here,
Hmm.
and I don't want to spend any of that time unhappy. And you've just got to, sometimes in life you've got to prioritize yourself. So
100%. We've spoken before about that healthy selfishness. People use the
mm,
word selfish, with so many negative connotations, but I always say to people, you can't pour from an empty cup. Do you know what I mean? And the fire service is an example again. Who's the most important people there? Fucking us. To be honest
mm,
with you, that's who the most important people on the instant ground is. We are not there to kill ourselves. We're not there to sacrifice people in some courage and sacrifice or anything like that. We are there, 4, 5, 6 of us, and we're going to come back. That's the main goal. Once we've ticked that box, we're there to try and utilize the tools and resources, the personal development, the things we've selfishly spent time working on. We can use those things to help other people. But I love that Dr. Zeus quote. That actually came from some of the aspects of it's the stoicism. That's where that comes from. It's the aspect of controlling the controllables and knowing that the only things that are within your control are your thoughts and your actions, i.e., like he says there, what's in my head and what's in my shoes, my thoughts and
mm-hmm,
my actions, which in itself talks about that sphere of control and understanding that don't beat yourselves up around things that are outside of your control, which in itself comes. Have you ever heard of the Serenity Prayer?
no.
So the Serenity Prayer is very big in terms of addiction. So it's a big thing that addicts usually reflect on. And it is traditionally based around religion and Christ and the Lord and stuff like that. But it effectively says that we grant us the serenity of mind to accept that which we can control and that which we cannot be changed. The courage to change the things that we can change and the wisdom to know the difference. So trying to change things that are outside of your control, like I want to meet the perfect person, or I want to have that time again, or I want other people to treat me differently, or I want the job to be different. Those things are outside of your control. All you can control are your thoughts and your actions. You can stack the deck in your favor. You can put yourself in fortuitous positions like you did, visiting fire stations, sharing I know you've got connections with the Firefighters charity and you're looking to support other people through that kind of work. Those things come through you putting yourself out there. And some people will say, oh, well, how come you get opportunities to do stuff like that? Because your moral compass is pointing you in a direction where you're doing things for the right reasons and you're accepting the things that are within your control. Doesn't mean your life's perfect and everyone's going to hold you up to be some ideology that they should aspire to, but your moral compass is pointing you in that direction, which just so happens to be something that people take inspiration from. And it's a big reason I wanted to speak to you.
Oh, that's kind.
Sorry, that probably sounds a bit fucking over egging the thing there, but it is, and that's why I love connecting with people such as yourself. What was it like when you came into the job, realizing that you were still one of very few in terms of being a woman?
Oh, I find that question so hard because I think for me, I didn't really feel like, gosh, I'm the only girl here, or it is very obvious in my brigade that there isn't many of us women in it. And I think it's more so I think it's more so possibly harder for your peers at times. I can't obviously speak on behalf of people, but I know that when I moved stations initially, it was, oh, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? And it's like, I'm fine. Like, it's fine. It's very, and that's an amazing offering. There's nothing wrong with people doing that. It's people being considerate, because although we are inclusive, some people just want to be mindful, and there's no harm in people being like that. I don't feel that there is a divide at all, really, between male and women in my job, especially in the brigade I'm in. It's very inclusive. I don't feel as if anyone looks at me any different, but I put that pressure on myself. Like, I've got to train hard because I want to be as strong as them. And that's the biggest thing that gets me the most with women joining the job. I get it all the time on my Instagram. Like, what do I need to do fitness wise? I'm doing this on the treadmill. I'm doing this on the Stairmaster. I got told no from the fitness test because I was 2 kilos below the pass grade. If you can't lift it, you need to work on getting better at that. I know some people will be like, what kind of thing? It's like, why would you want to get an easier way in? Like, you're changing the game here. So put a bit more time and effort into it. Take time. Don't push yourself to apply on the next one. Focus on hitting those goals so that when you get in, you're going to smash it. You're going to be wicked at doing the strength side of things. That's why I'm hard on myself with my training, because I know that chances are 90% of the time I'm going to be number 2 to a fully developed grown man who, if there is a rescue scenario and we have to pull someone out, I don't want it to all be on them. I want to be able to help as best as I can. Women will better in this job and applying for it if they accept you can't argue with science. Like, you can't. No. Women are not scientifically developed to be as strong as men. Like, we're not. Like, naturally, we're not. That doesn't mean to say that you cannot get yourself there.
We haven't set unachievable targets, no.
No, I don't. And this isn't me coming from the fact that I've trained for years or anything like that. The demands are not that high. No. They're not. Like, SAS Army fitness regimen, now that is hard. Like, fire service,
CrossFit Open, that shit's difficult. Exactly. We're not fucking there yet.
No, but like, you should be able to lift 20 kilos. You should be able to put 30, 35 kilos above your head. Because I tell you what, if you can't do that, but then you're dragging someone, be it a car, house fire, they're going to weigh a hell of a lot more than 20 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
So don't set yourself up with the worry and the fear of, oh, I can't hit that, or I'm not going to be able to achieve that. Change the narrative and be like, I am going to achieve that. I'm going to get that weight on there. And that's the biggest thing with the answer to the question, is that I feel like I'm in a very inclusive brigade, but I put the pressure on myself because I want to be completely accountable for anything that we come up against. If others possibly share that mindset or something similar, then you're not going to fail in any way. That is definitely the hardest thing, with not so much with being a woman joining the services, but something that I have noticed in women wanting to join the services.
Here's one for you then, because I want to spin something for you, because it's just been dawning on me as I've been listening to you. Mm-hmm. When I hear you speak about physicality and I see you speak about physical progression and development and stuff like that, it's very much from a really great mindset of, it's not like I can't do this, it's that I can't do this yet. Do you know what I mean? I'm working to get better at this. I'm working on getting stronger. It might take me a couple of years. I don't think the physical aspects, because you've got such an acute awareness and you've worked on it for years, you have seen the tangible improvements in your physical development, and you're now at a point where obviously you're a professional firefighter, you compete in things and all that sort of stuff. Great. When it comes to academics, you have more of a finite mindset where you go, I'm not good at this. No. I can't do that. Whereas I would love to see, and I don't hear you applying the same mindset of, I'm struggling with this at the minute, or I'm struggling to get better at that. Yeah, because I did this similar sort of thing for so long, whereby I measured myself by physical metrics because that was easy for me to be successful in, or it's something I was more acclimatized to, and I could get my success metric from that. But what the real challenge for me was, what am I doing to challenge myself academically? Yeah, I'd always struggle with it, and that was the big challenge for me. Rather than, for me, it was hiding behind, oh, I'm a big, strong guy, so I don't need to do any of that other sort of shit. How do you go about, and have you ever had the appetite to apply that same mindset of, I'm struggling with this at the minute, but I'm getting better? Because I would love to see people like you progress into leadership positions within the UK Fire and Rescue Service because of your moral compass and because of your mindset and because of your just self-awareness, and you're a great communicator. But if you giving yourself a finite mindset of, I struggle to learn and I'm not good at this, it's less likely that you would develop into those positions.
Yeah, I guess then in a way it's a bit of pot kettle black, isn't it? But that's because
sometimes maybe I don't know.
No,
it maybe
no,
comes
for
back
sure.
To
like
again, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is a confidence thing. I would preach and rant and rave until the flipping cows came home about the physical aspect, but am I doing that because that's an area that I'm strong in and because I know that it's necessary? Yeah, probably. I guess so. I always try to be
a professional firefighter, and I know you are.
You have to have the theory stuff.
You have to have the 100%. Theory stuff.
And funnily enough, I was doing my checks the other day and I was chatting to my colleague, and I said to him, I was like, I do know some stuff. I was like, I don't know everything, but I do know some stuff. And he was like, you need to change your language. And then he said the glass half full. He said, what way is it? And I said, well, the glass is half full. And he was like, exactly. And he said, so don't be so hard on yourself with the theory stuff, with saying, I don't know it all yet, but I'm going to. And that's a mindset that I'm working on. So as much as I can say about the physical stuff, and like it's possible, and I do get passionate about the physical stuff because it is something that I get so commonly asked. I don't really get asked about the theory. It's always physical. And that sometimes I think it's obvious. You can tell that I've got a passion for it and such a want for girls to want to be as strong as their male counterparts, to be accountable. But at the same breath, I know that it is something that I'm working on. I need to be more accountable with my academic ability and with my theory stuff, and I need to apply myself better. And I've definitely come on leaps and bounds recently within my career of learning stuff. I'm still in my development, but I've definitely there has been a change. I am more applying myself, but I definitely need to work more on that mindset with applying what I can do physically to my academic and understanding ability 100%. But
And they are
I'll
just
openly
character
admit that.
traits. They're
Yeah,
just there are things
massively.
you can copy over because you're clearly. When I say to people, why do you think you struggle a bit more with that? And they go, oh, I'm just not very disciplined. And I go, bullshit, because whoever you are, let's say you weren't into fitness, but you get up and walk your dog every day. Okay, well you get up and walk your dog every day. Yes, well you clearly have discipline then. But we often will so much more do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. But people have discipline. People eat similar stuff every day. They go to work, even if they hate their fucking job. They are disciplined. It's just about taking those character traits. You're disciplined. You've got persistence. You've got patience. You've got emotional resilience to have been through the things that you've been through. Take those character traits and apply them onto that other aspect. That is where so many people can start to put together a strategy for developing themselves in what they currently perceive to be their weaker areas, similar to what you said about women with physical fitness, when they go, yeah, but it's going to be so much harder for me than it would be for a guy. Yeah, it's going to be harder, but it's not impossible. When people go, oh, I'm not academic, right, so it might be harder for you to learn that process, but it's not impossible. You might think it's unfair that you're going to have to study for longer to get the same thing that some fucking bellend walks straight in, looks at it and goes, oh yeah, I know how to do that. And you're like, wanker. I fucking haven't got a fucking clue. Do you know what I mean?
I bought a timetable chart off of Amazon to get better at my maths for the fire service. I had 3 different theory books from Amazon. I was printing off mock exams. I was trying, it was so different on the final go. And because I know that my weakness was there, like, and you've just got to, if you're so determined for it, then anything is possible if you just apply the same determination in your weaknesses. And I'm very guilty of that. I can't say that I'm perfect.
We all are.
Well, you've caught me out with the theory stuff. It's true. You have, like, 100%. I'm not going to hide from it. I know I'm very I think it's very apparent.
It's the reason I started the podcast. And every time I speak to people that are far more experienced than me or are sector experts, it's like they pulled the sheets back on the fact that I know fuck all about what they're going on about sometimes. And I try and do my research and I try and look up their area of expertise before coming on. But I basically just call it a learning out loud, because I used to hide behind the fact, oh, I've got all these gold medals from firefighter challenges. I'm fucking ex-strongman. I'm an international athlete. No one gives a flying fuck. Okay, when you're putting yourself into an environment where you're trying to help people develop and trying to help people educate themselves, those things, we can't hide behind them anymore. And that's where that fully rounded individual comes from. I wanted to ask you about getting into the job now, and was it any different from what you thought it would be? What did you think the day-to-day life of a firefighter was versus you're now well into your career, you're a couple of years in. How are you finding it? What are you learning more about it? What do you see your future in the sector? Can you see yourself doing it for 30 years?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I ain't leaving. I love my job. I can wholesomely, very humbly say that. I love it. And if anyone said to me, was it worth it? I was like, oh, I'd apply 10 times. I don't take stress from the job home. I go into work every day and I learn and I laugh, and I think they're 2 of the best L's out there. And I love it. The three L's of the fire service: love, laugh, and learn. Yeah. I guess I'm going to copyright that.
Use it. Put it in there.
I knew I wasn't going to be out the door all the time, and the bells weren't going to be going, and we'd have to go to an AFA, automatic fire alarms. We love them. Yeah. And I didn't appreciate, though, what I will say actually is how hard the learning is. I literally felt and still feel like I'm back in school, like with regards to the challenges of learning, but who I'm learning from. And I've been so fortunate that in our brigade, we do rotations a lot of the time. In nationwide brigades, you get a fire station and then you're there for the foreseeable until you put in for a transfer or whatever. in the brigade I'm in, we do rotations, and I've been very fortunate to be part of two very
Just for new
experienced
recruits, sorry, or
watchers.
for all personnel?
No, just for new recruits.
Yeah, round robins, yeah.
Yeah, so
They're really good. I
so
definitely think they're great. Great. Get
it's
exposure to so many
it's a
teams.
mixed, yeah, it's a mixed opinion. I I think I think it's got its pros and cons. So obviously, when you're establishing those relationships, and then you go,
Yeah, people are like, oh, I've only been here
it
six
makes it a bit
months. I'm
hard.
finally getting the hang of it. Now I'm moving.
Yeah,
And I'm like, yeah,
or
you
it's you
are.
get trained up in something specialist,
Yeah, water
and then you
rescue,
move.
whatever, yeah.
So it's a bit, but then obviously you get trained up in a specialist there, then it means you go to somewhere else and then you get trained up on something there. So it swings and roundabouts with pros and cons. But I I would say that with the experience that I've been exposed to in my first two watches, I've learnt so much, and I just that and I've had wicked support. I've been very fortunate in the support and the help and the patience, because
Mm.
I am sometimes I look back to when I first joined, and if you asked me what a pressure gauge was, I would have looked at you as if you had three eyes. Like I a pressure gauge, I was like, what? Learning the pump, what? Like knots and lines. Like I remember doing the knots and lines one evening during training school, and everyone learnt three and I learnt one, because I was just like, how do people? My background's corporate,
Yeah.
sales, events, and marketing. That's my bag. But flipping knots and lines and pumps and gauges, like I could just about crack open the hose and I'd be happy. But then you look back then, and then you look now, and it's like I was on an assessment the other day, and they were like, Ange, tie bowling. And I
Mm.
tied it, and they were like, you're the first one to get it first time. And I was like, go on. It's little things like that that make me think, goodness me. Like, I remember, and I'd go way back, and I could only do the one knot. And that was a collie pitch, which is like the easiest knot that I couldn't do. But then it's like, you learn all this theory stuff as you carry on, and it comes with time, but it is very hard. I didn't
Mhm.
realize how intense the learning is, because our fire engines are our toolbox, and we need
Mm.
to know how everything on there works, because regardless of development, you're riding that truck, so you've got to know how everything works.
Mm.
And the specifications, again, ties back to theory. They're not my strong point.
As long as you can get it to work.
Yeah, I need to sharpen up a little bit. There's always areas we can work on, right? But and I definitely don't claim to be a know-it-all, but
Nobody ever
it's
is.
a
You need
the
to get into that
expectation was
mindset of being an
definitely
eternal
learning it.
student, because by the
Yeah,
time you get a hang of
learning it
stuff,
all.
it changes anyway. You know, I've spent months
Mm,
in fire investigation and operational assurance, and you get to a point where you're like, fucking hell, have I forgot how to do some of the practical sides of the job? You know, and
mm.
now I've just moved into our training and development department. So I'm so lucky to be that
Congrats.
person that gets all the new recruits, you know, and I've got a couple of crew
Mm,
managers working with me for me and my team, and being at that point where I'm like, shit, I want to get my mindset back into being, you know, tying all those knots without even looking at them and all that sort of stuff. I haven't had to do that
mm,
for years. So you can still have that imposter syndrome, never stops really, but just with utilizing those characteristics, being intentional, being assertive, you know, putting yourself into that strategy and that daily discipline of I just need to put some time into this. That's all it is. And also
mm,
reach out and ask for help. You know, go back and see the last set of recruits that's just passed out, because they'll be the ones that are shit hot at it. Go and spend some time on the rescue station. Go and speak to
mm.
those sector experts. You'd be surprised how many people are more than willing to talk to you about everything they know. It's often their fucking specialist subject. People love to tell you what they know. You just have to be humble enough to sit there and listen.
That's definitely as well. Like I think an expectation is as I say, like the amount of learning, but something that I didn't expect is how forthcoming everyone is.
Hmm.
Like I knew people would be helpful, but these guys and girls that I work with are phenomenal.
Hmm.
I can honestly say that I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by people on my station and my previous station, because everyone's so forthcoming with wanting to help you. And that's something you don't expect. You do feel like all eyes are you when you're a probie going to a new station, 100%. And it's fact, eyes are on you because
Yeah.
people want to know where you're at and what you're capable of.
Mm.
So it's just using what's around you to your advantage and just gaining better knowledge and better exposure and experience by using that knowledge around you. So
Not having too
I'm
much pride as
definitely
well. You've got to be willing to take that learning. I always say to people, if
mm,
someone's willing to talk to you, even if you
mm,
think you know what they're about to say, even if you've heard it 10 times before, because the next thing they say might be something you don't know. When you hear
mm,
yourself speaking, all you hear is the shit you already know. You know, two ears
yeah,
and one mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. That's the whole point it's there for.
yeah.
So as you look forward now over the next, stage of your career, and you've got people coming in behind you, you've got new recruits, what advice would you give somebody that's just been receiving that letter? They've just had that letter that you had all that time ago, and they're about to start training school. What advice would you have for them?
Oh, I like that question. It does. It gets me a little bit emotional thinking back to me in 2019, was it? 2020? I'd do anything to hug that Ange. I
Oh,
was
bless her.
so hard on myself. So hard on myself. I got so ill and everything. I would say if you're not used to it and if you come from a background similar to mine and if you've just got in, don't fear the culture, embrace it. It's different, especially if you come from corporate. You aren't tied to a desk. You are going to have someone eyeing up your uniform, ensuring that routines are done. Be disciplined, listen, don't be afraid to ask any questions. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get it straight away. Just enjoy it. And massively, I can't express it enough, but to say just embrace it because it's not it's nothing to be fearful of. Like it's there to make you the best of your ability,
Mm,
and also to see if you're cut for the job.
mm.
Like you gotta be put in these intense, pressurized, stressful situations. Granted, at the time, I can openly admit I hated it. I was
Really?
like, this is so hard, but that's because of my that was because of my abilities and my weaknesses. That wasn't because of the environment I was in. It was adapting and it was tough. Like it was hard, but it's got to be.
Mm.
And
Also, you weren't a
just
teenager anymore. You were at an age where you'd already been competent in one
mm,
job. Whereas when I say to people, it's great that we're having people come into the job with life experience in their mid 20s, late 20s, 30s, whatever.
mm,
But recalibrating to being a student again and being shit at something can be so difficult for some people that think, I need to walk in and be good at this. Why am I not good? Why am I shit? I can't do this.
yeah, massively. Oh my God. And I remember the first course I was part of, I was like, I feel like the runt of the litter. Like, and I remember saying that to my instructor at the end of week one. He was like, how are you feeling? How's it going? I was like, I feel like I feel useless. Like I feel like I'm the runt of the litter here.
Mm.
And these lot are just, everyone just seems to get it. And I just don't. And I was so hard on myself for that. So hard on myself. I was like, I can't seem to do it. And I would never quit. Like no way. Quitting wasn't an option until I actually had to. When I got too sick. So I'd got in on my sixth go and I was on the course for 5 weeks and then I had to throw in the towel because I got so ill. Did
Why did you get
stress
so ill?
play? I there was it was the end of week one and that I started showing symptoms and I was literally like, oh, that's a bit bizarre kind of thing. Didn't think anything of it. And I went back and I continued and I pushed myself and I pushed myself. And then one morning I ended up having to call 111 and I was in my room and they were like, you've got to go to the hospital. I was like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And they went, no, you do. And I was like, no. And I remember I knocked next door and I knocked on her door. She opened up the door. She went, oh, you look like a beetle.
Oh
And I was
shit.
like, oh, I really don't feel very good. She was like, the instructors were so supportive. I got taken to the hospital and I had my checks done, and they were like, your markers are through the roof, like you are really sick, you've got to rest up. And I rested up, and like, bless them, they took me there, they brought me back and rested up, and they were like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I really wasn't. But I tried, and I tried to persevere, and I got through my first and three, like,
Module, yeah.
weeks 1 to 3 assessment, like in the training school part, and then felt better, and then started doing breathing apparatus. And I just remember being outside the firehouse, and I said to my good friend now, and I said to her, I was like, oh, I think my infection's still like lingering. I feel really rough again. And she's like, really? And I was like, I don't think I could go in there. And I spoke to the instructors again, and then bless them, they took me back up, and then they were like, you're still, like, you've got to rest, like you're done, kind of thing. And then the following, because that was on the Friday, and then I went in on the Monday on week 5, and I was done. I was like, I can't. I was like, I didn't want to, and I ended up resenting my team, which is awful.
Yeah.
And that is
Well, because
such
they
a,
get to carry on, yeah.
they got to carry on. A lot of them got in first time. I was like, why is this happening to me? There was so many other things as well that happened. Like, my car failed its MOT. I had 20 grand's worth of fraud committed on my bank account. This all happened in the same time of me doing my first course. And it's just a matter of timing. Like, the timing could have been better, but it wasn't. So it was what it was. And it was, they were so supportive, because they knew how much it meant to me. And they were like, we'll back squad you so that when you're well enough, you could come back and you can resit the course. And looking back, being back squadded was the best thing that could have happened to me, because mindset, timing, just during that time of doing that first course just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I was so hard on myself. I was like, if you don't get it, you're going to fail. And if you fail, then you're not going to get the job. Where it's like, if you just slow down a minute, my mum is always saying that to me. Angela, you're like a bull in a china shop. Always what she says. And looking back, because I had the support and the access, I suppose, in bettering, that when I did go back in January, it was a lot more calmer. Everything just flowed a lot easier. I was easier on myself. I wasn't too much easier on myself, but I was just like, just slow down, like, you'll get it, kind of thing. And whether or not the illness was induced because of stress, I don't know. But I know that stress 100% played a part to it. That's why, like, from that experience, and any newcomer, just enjoy it and embrace it, and don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you have all the tools there. You are capable of doing the job, which is why you passed the lengthy process of getting in. And just ask questions. Use the resources around you to your ability. And if you're struggling on one part, then look to those in your squads to help you.
Love that.
Don't shy away from it.
I wanted to try and force us into, like, zoom out from the job a little bit. And because I know so much of what attracts people to this is the type of people that they are. I always used to think that the emergency services was great and it attracted great people, but it's actually the people that are in the job. Rather than asking advice for people of what they should or do and stuff like that, is there any piece of advice that you think is like a bad piece of advice that you think people should avoid? Have you ever had something where people say, you know, those common phrases people say that actually is absolute bullshit?
I think, if with regards to, like, any means of bad advice, if it's negative, then ignore it. Don't allow that to overshadow your ability or your capabilities in thinking that you can't do anything, be it the job or whatever. If you're passionate, and if you're determined, and if you feel like you have what it takes, then there's no one stopping you from achieving what you want to do. So just ignore the haters, I guess. I hate that terminology, but
no, it's true.
It's similar. Like, when an example of that I can use in today's is my Instagram. I know some people will view it and be like, why is she posting this? Why is she trying to portray this? not trying to portray myself as anything other than a developing firefighter who loves her job, trying to help other people getting in. And if anyone says anything negative towards that, then I don't have time for it. That's just the way that I look at anything negative, really. Well, I try to, other than when it comes to theory. Theory stuff, I'm too hard on myself. But
no, you're right. You're so right. And I always say to people, it's not always going to be easy in that respect either. Some people will throw stones and stuff like that. And sometimes you can work as hard as you like, but you don't always get what's right. You don't sometimes even get what you deserve. I do say to people that you tend to get what you tolerate, as harsh as that sounds. So on that note, I kind of wanted to ask you, is there anything that you're tolerating or putting up with in life at the minute that deep down you need to adjust on?
No.
Good.
Because I don't, there's obviously, there's little things that people tolerate in life, and you don't tolerate people. It's up to you whether you choose to tolerate people, but that's up to you if you choose to have them about. And if you're choosing to tolerate something that makes you unhappy, then why? What's the point? So I can say no to that, because I don't tolerate nastiness. I don't tolerate people being rude to me. It's like dating. If you're not showing much interest in me, then see ya.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting my time on you.
100%.
Time is invaluable. You're never going to get time back. So why am I going to waste
irredeemable
time
asset
speaking to someone that doesn't make me feel valued? It's not. No. I'm sorry if that makes me sound sassy.
No, it doesn't make you sound sassy at all. I'm totally the same. When I'm with people, I'm like, and we had it, we went and got some lunch together some time ago. I'm like, be present. You know what I mean? I don't like these fucking smartwatches. I don't like people having phones on the table when I'm talking to them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the most important person in the world, but when I'm here with you, be here with me. Give me that attention. Let's be present together, even just for a small time. And if people can't do that, we're so bad in relationships like that. That's why, sadly, the things like podcasts have become so prominent, is because it's people having one-to-one conversations and really being present with each other, and that's become so rare.
No, you're right. It's definitely, the podcast thing is like taking over. It's gone crazy, hasn't it? And
I love it though. You can you can be a fly on the wall of like our conversation right now. And, no one will get an opportunity to necessarily hear you speak on so many spectrums of your life and what's taken you to here. One photo or video of you doesn't tell people who you truly are. It's only if they get an interest and the ability to hear more about your story, does it really show the authenticity about why you're spreading the message that you're spreading. Well,
that's the thing. The thing is there's no exact message that I am trying to spread. As I say, it all stemmed from my friend asking me to share a bit more. And on the back of it, it's resulted in helping people, getting opportunities like coming onto the podcast, speaking to the charity. It's opened up other windows, which is massively overwhelming some days, especially when you think, goodness, I've got these messages to reply to. These people want to talk to me, but I'm just a developing firefighter who loves her job. I don't claim to be the best. I know that I'm not the best. I'm going to work hard so that I can be the best that I can be, but that's going to take time. I've only been in 2 years. That's not a massive amount of time, especially compared to the exposure that we get nowadays, because the jobs are less. So it's crazy to think sometimes with where you were to now where you are.
Because even that is your journey, though. That is your journey to share. I always say to people, how soon can you become a mentor? As soon as you come out of training school, because you've got valuable stuff to share with somebody. As much as you think I don't know, fuck all, I've just started. Well, you know what? Like I say, I speak to people all the time on the podcast, and they'll come on and go, oh, well, about this that's happening in the sector. And I'll be like, no. And I just feel like a dick, because you're like, oh, I've been in 17 years and I don't know fuck all about that. Well, it's because it's a big thing in their world. It's not something I've been exposed to before. So you've got to keep that mindset where you're never going to know it all. You're always going to need to be open to learning, because there is no finish.
Oh God, no. The job, policies, procedures, laws, things change
every
all
bloody
the time.
week.
It's like a revolving door with new things coming in. It's like, oh, wicked, I learned this, and it's look, that's changed.
Oh, that's changed now. Different kit. We don't do that
anymore.
anymore.
No, that's changed now. Yeah, it's like it happens, but you've definitely got to be adaptable to that. You've got to be adaptable to change, for sure.
Right. I want to force us into a quick fire round as we finish. Ready for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
First few are easy. What do you most rely on, hard work or talent?
Hard work.
Do you prefer a chalk and sawdust gym or a group fitness class?
Oh, chalk and sawdust.
Beautiful. Favorite drink after a tough BA wear?
Slushy.
What flavour?
We have a lime one typically. We have a slush machine.
Do you really?
Yeah, we do. We have a slush machine that goes on in the summer.
Love it. What two people would you most want to have dinner with?
Oh, David Attenborough.
Nice.
And
dead or alive?
No, alive. Oh, obviously, yeah, he is alive.
Don't want to have dinner with dead David Attenborough. That would be fucking shit. Not much of a conversationalist, are you, David?
Do you know what? I had like a full-blown table of people, but I just, when you're asked on the spot and then you can't remember. David Attenborough is definitely one of them.
Be a great one.
And I don't know why she's coming to my head, but Sarah, is it Sigmund's daughter or something?
Yeah,
she's CrossFit athlete.
Yeah.
Her Tia Toomey. One of those two.
Yeah.
To join me in Attenborough.
What's more important, winning or taking part?
Taking part.
BA1 or BA2?
1.
Casualty care or command support?
Casualty care.
Nice. Nobody wants to be command support. Pump operator or entry control?
But it's also my people skills, I think.
Pump operator or entry control?
Pump operator.
Looking good and losing or looking bad and winning?
Looking bad and winning.
Looking bad and winning. Yeah, good. It's good. So most people just try to look good all the time. Big night out or a quiet night in?
Oh, I feel like I'm in one of those like social media videos where it's got the saying and then it's like you go towards the night in, then really you go back to like the big night out. Yeah, big. It depends. It honestly depends. Probably a big night out though. Yeah,
you've got a great group of friends. I know you go on some good adventures.
Big night out, yeah.
First to volunteer or let someone else go first?
First to volunteer.
Love it. Ange, thank you for that. Really, 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 really appreciate it. I love getting our time together. I think it's so important for people. They always say, especially women in the fire service, it's like you've got to see it to be it. So if people don't have the ability to see people from their background, people who've gone through similar challenges, people that haven't got in first time, go on and have their version of success as much as you and I may not feel successful at times. I think it's super important to do that. So I always appreciate you taking the time, especially twice. Have I fucked it up the first time to be able to get this time together? And I really appreciate it.
That's all good. All good. Always a pleasure, Pete.
Good. Send my love to the team and I look forward to touching base again soon.
Yeah, watch this space, eh?
The Firefighters podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.